with a goal.
Okay.
What's your goal for this session, by the way? Let's start for this session here. What would you like to achieve in
This
the time?
actual
Yes,
thing we're doing
yeah.
now? I suppose I'd like to go away feeling like I've got a clearer plan.
Okay, suppose.
If you could guarantee it, I don't know.
If, feel, what would make you feel that way?
That I could go away and definitively start doing things, acting on it.
Okay, so a goal, to clarify goal for the session,
Mm-hmm.
what would you like to achieve from doing this session?
It would be a feeling that I leave here today knowing what the action steps are, or the direction for me.
Who controls how you feel?
Me,
Okay, how do you want to feel?
certain.
Okay. Let's think of has there been a time you felt certain?
Yes.
Okay. And think about what you saw, what you heard, what you felt.
Okay.
And you reflect back to the time when you felt certain.
Okay.
Can you bring that certainty to now?
Yes.
Having brought that certainty to now, what I'd like you to do is think of the big picture goal. What's the big picture goal?
The big picture will be that I will be in a position that I can not have to worry or concern myself or spend time doing things that I don't necessarily think are valuable.
Okay, don't worry, don't spend time doing things that aren't valuable. What goes through your mind? What's the big picture goal?
Big picture is to have everything under control and be where I want to be.
You've not got things under control now?
No, because I'm not certain.
Okay. What
So,
would make you certain?
I suppose some evidence if I go and take some action.
What sort of evidence do you need?
Responses, probably validation to a point. Through experimentation, I'll get feedback from people.
Perhaps you'd like to close your eyes briefly.
Okay.
And as you close your eyes briefly, what I'd like you to do is imagine how you'd like a future to be in a time frame you're happy for it to be that way. Think how you want it to be, what you're wanting, what you'll see, what you'll hear, what you feel. What will you see, what you hear, what you feel? The vision.
Okay, so in terms of what I can see,
Yeah.
I can just see me coaching
Fantastic. How will you feel?
in flow.
What will you hear?
Feedback, responses, conversation with the people I'm coaching.
Fantastic. Okay. And what sort of scale will you be doing it?
What I'm particularly thinking now is probably a group of maybe 12-ish people.
Okay. Okay. And what will you be coaching there?
Personal mastery.
Fantastic. How will it feel like?
For me, it'll feel good, yeah. Feel good.
Awesome. And what sort of feedback are you getting?
Good connection, good energy,
Awesome.
engagement.
And really intensify that feeling. And intensify, think of the scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high, 9, you can anchor it. And as you anchor it, come back to the here and now in your own time and in your own pace. Okay. I want you to think of a time in the future that represents when you've got to go and step out to that time in the future, because we're going to go work through these levels. So you're going to step out into the future when you've got the goal. So you're living the goal.
Okay.
Would you come out to, yeah,
Physically stand.
Yes, please, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So this is where the goal is.
Yeah.
This is where you've got the goal, okay?
Okay.
The goal is there.
Yeah.
You've got the goal. if you close your eyes and feel it, you're living the goal, doing the goal, you're speaking to a group of 12 people on personal mastery. And as you speak to the people on personal mastery, notice the feeling, where the feelings are, let them spread through every cell of the body. Think about what you're saying, what they're saying back to you. Really live it like the here and now. Okay? What are some things you're going to be telling the people on personal mastery? You're a very skilled coach, you are very experienced in many modalities. What are some of the things that you could share about personal mastery? Living it now.
It's about really just reinforcing that they can do whatever they think they can.
Yeah. Fantastic. And you're a perfect example of, while you're teaching them the things that you've done, the breakthroughs you've made over the last few years, and the places you've travelled around the world, the places you've been around the world and done the coaching that you've done. And really live the goal and feel it, so you've got the goal. And in your own time, in your own pace, you come back to the here and now. Okay. I'm just going to break state. Think of your phone backwards to break state. If you want to take a step forward to beyond the goal, just one step forward, please.
Beyond the goal.
Yes, please. And if you just want to turn around and face the... Perhaps you'd like to close your eyes again. And now you've got the goal, beyond the goal. You can see yourself like watching a TV screen, doing the goal. You can see Colin doing the goal. And maybe you can reflect on some things you've achieved in the last few months. The tour of America, the tour of Malaysia, the people you've helped, all the feedback you've already gotten. And I've seen your feedback. It's phenomenal. The people you've helped. Just reflect on some of the feedback you've already got. The lives you've transformed already anyway. People have got in great shape for help that you've given them. They've improved their business. So you can see yourself like watching a screen. What advice would you give someone who is starting on their journey from where you were at the very beginning to the person you are now? This international coach who's travelling everywhere talking about personal mastery, who's got experience in many modalities. What advice would you give?
I'd say get good help.
Okay, who exactly?
Experts, people more knowledgeable.
Okay. Fantastic. So they could model people. What other could they get?
Is this for me?
You advising the person you were then, or someone who was starting on the journey. Okay, let's frame it in a way that there's someone who was where you are at the point of when you needed to overcome the obstacle you were at.
Yeah.
What advice would you give that person who you were on the chair? Because this is the Colin who's living it.
Small steps, one step at a time. That kind of thought
Okay.
that you just got to do things slowly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big thing in my mind at the moment. Is this that you can't do it on your own, whoever you are.
Yeah. And two minds are better than one, aren't they?
At least two minds. Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And start reflecting on people that they could utilise. Because we know if someone wants to be a speaker, they might join a speaking association. We know if someone wants to improve their coaching, they might learn a course. We know if someone wants to become a cyclist, they find a mentor who has been there and done that. And we know that you have trained some elite athletes and you train people in the cycling world and they come to you for advice. But we also know coaching facilitates. And you know that, and you can think about people who they can model. And in your own mind, you can think about people who could then outsource, and you can sort of reflect on that and think about what advice you could give to that person who's starting out, who wants to be where you are. And you can internalize that and bring back learnings. As you bring back the learnings, Colin, what would you say to that person who is where you were?
keep going as well. I think
Yeah.
it's really important.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay. Fantastic. Anything else?
Sometimes not to listen to everybody. I think it's quite good advice.
Okay. And you can elaborate on this, and for the benefit of the exercise, you can elaborate. Okay. So if you come back to the here and now in your own time and your own pace, so you could expand this if you wanted to. As we're demonstrating, it's kind enough to demonstrate, we'll work through the exercise at a pace that we can all have a go and practice and go from there. And you can revisit, reevaluate the steps as you go along. So working from a place where Colin is living his vision, his goal, whatever that goal might be. If we just take a step into the identity. So, and if you want to, you can have cards. You can have cards. If you want, you can have cards that you can use along the way. It's your call. I'm not using cards. What's really important is you break states. So we're not carrying that mindset into the next stage of the exercise. And you can break state by changing the subject, or you can break state by saying what's your phone at the backwards. You could break state by however you'd like to break state is your call. Identity. How we define who we are impacts many things. Now, I'll go into this shortly. I had a client once who got a promotion, and the promotion they got was to become a managing director of a company. And they had someone go in to help that person who was really struggling being a director of the company. You know what they were struggling with? From being a financial director to being promoted to director, they found it a struggle. Someone had told them the reason why they're struggling is because they had a label called imposter syndrome. Having been given that label, what do you think the person did? They conform to a label. So you tell a child, you're hopeless, you're worthless, you're useless, what does a child believe? Precisely. So I can't speak for who this person worked with. They gave him the label. They conform to the label. So that was an issue around identity. How we define who we are in that context. We know if someone's a lawyer and they go home and cross-examine family, it doesn't make for a good family life. We know in the Western world, a lot of our social status is based on our identity, based on our work, what we do. You introduce yourself, the first thing you say is what you do professionally. You go for a meal for Christmas, people start talking about work. Our worth is based, and even though we know that people, and I had this reunion many years ago, some of the people I went to LUP reunion with, and some had gone on to do one thing or the other. One woman said, well, I haven't been doing a great deal, I've been just bringing up 2 children. I thought, well, there's an irony in the way she said that, because I thought bringing up 2 children is probably, well, it is the biggest task of any of us, because that's a nutritionist, a psychiatrist, everything you could ever imagine. We're working in football clubs, most of us, and really, when you think about football, as much as I love it, it's kicking a bag of air around, really, isn't it? So the reality is that we undermine ourselves. So careful how you identify yourself. And we know, and I remember seeing a program once, it was Jamie Oliver that went and taught people to cook healthy meals in a part of the UK, I can't remember what it was. It was a program I saw on TV, so I speak very loosely. But he helped them to cook meals, and having helped them to cook meals, healthy meals, when he went back 3 months later, were they cooking well, do you think? No. Guess what one woman said when he goes, how come you're not cooking well for your family anymore? Guess what she said? It's all right for you, Jamie. You've got money. You can afford that. And I thought, maybe she's got a point. And then she goes on to say, I give my kids 20 quid to go to buy chippy. I thought, wow, where I shop 20 quid gets you healthy food. So we don't do that here. And we see this a lot. In corporation, in general society, identity. We see when people retire, when they lose their job. When people retire, they're no longer the person they were before. Because even the best sports person in the world, professional footballer, when he retires or she retires, and they're no longer the person they were, well, who am I now? Because when they're playing football, it's all like, hey, everyone wants to know them, But then when they retire, they're not that person no more. They go to a local paper shop and no one shows any interest in that level. And we see sports people. We talked about one, which I won't mention, recently outside, who's just lost off the rails. Now, I can't speak for that person, I don't know him personally, but what I will say, it goes to show identity. Now, in the case of the goal, it plays a big part. So now, Colin, you've got this goal, close your eyes, and think, who's Colin now? What role is he playing that he wasn't playing before? Now you live in this goal and you're doing these mastery courses and you're doing the great work that you do and you've got these whole people and doing this talk. How do you define Colin? How are you defining yourself now? What role are you doing now that you weren't doing before?
I think I'm just doing it more consistently.
Okay. So how would you define yourself now?
Inconsistent.
Okay. Now you've got the goal.
Now I've got it with consistency.
Okay. How else define? Who's Colin?
Happy, content,
Okay.
fulfilled,
Okay.
Accomplished,
What role are you doing now?
still coaching.
Okay. So you've got the goal. If someone asked you, how do you define who you are, what would you say?
I'm a coach.
What sort of coach?
Performance, personal mastery,
Okay. Mastering what?
self, personal mastery.
Fantastic. Okay. So identity. And we can take notes along the way if we choose to. Okay? We can take notes if we want to. And you can take notes along the way. And use a sounding board. But we'll go through the steps and we'll sort of touch base on some of these steps when we finish the exercise. Take a step into the next level. And as you take that step, we'll just break state and funnel backwards and think of belief. Okay? Now you've got the goal. You've got this goal. Perhaps you'd like to close your eyes again. Okay. What do you believe about yourself now?
I'm capable, I'm competent.
Okay, you're capable, you're competent. Okay, what else do you believe about yourself?
Having done it, I was able to structure my business in the right way.
Okay. What do you believe about the people that you're working with?
My clients,
Yeah.
I'm just very fortunate to be able to work with them.
Okay.
I believe that they are able to make any particular change that they want.
Okay. What do you value about doing the work that you do?
The impact that
Yeah.
it has on them.
Okay. What's your why? Why is it important to you to do the work that you do?
Because I can.
Okay. Why else? What motivates you?
The feeling I get from being able to help people, empower people, make them more resourceful.
Okay. Describe this feeling.
Happy, fulfilled,
Okay.
rewarded, grateful.
What are you going towards by doing this role?
Leaving people better than I found them, I suppose.
What are you going away from?
Not being able to share what it is that I can do and how I do it.
Okay. And why is that important to you?
Possibly because having discovered it and now doing it myself, I perhaps wish I'd have been able to work with somebody 10, 15, 20 years ago.
And why is that important to you?
Maybe because I would have done some things differently.
Maybe.
Well, I would, if I know what I knew now.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we knew what we knew now.
Mm.
Okay. And because of time, just come back to the here and now. So we reflect on beliefs and values. Value being what's important to you, the fuel that burns the fire. A belief is that perception of reality, what's true. Okay, which we'll touch on more as we go along. But we know beliefs can affect people's reality, can't they? Because what we believe to be true is generally what? Well, do we believe in what we think? What's fact, what's opinion? If I say to Colin, from here to the coffee machine is a long way, is that fact or opinion? It's an opinion. If I say, and I measure it's 10 metres, is that fact or opinion? As we know it. Because it could be a long way for someone who's got a medical condition, or it could be a short for someone who's physically well and fit. So we know a fact and opinion. So our beliefs, there's a lot of grey areas, isn't there? So we can utilise that from the reference point that we've got the goal. So you've got the goal and you go to your belief system. So you've got the goal and you go to your belief. Now you've got the goal. Now beliefs can affect people's decisions, what they do, in a big way. Because what do you do when you have a belief? You find a way to reinforce the belief. We tend to feel uncomfortable around people who have a different structural reality. We tend to have selective way of seeing the world. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is that, okay, now many years ago, I was doing some work abroad with a really well-known model, as it happens, really, really well-known, and she was going through a crisis in her life, and she was seeking help in many areas, and she was still struggling with herself, the sense of self, even though she'd gone to be very successful in the eyes of society. Very, very successful in the eyes of society, did really, really well in the eyes of society, well in the profession. Having done well in the profession, she's at a crisis point with sense of self. Now, I dug a bit deeper, as one does, and as you do, to find out what some of her beliefs were, what identity was, and so on. Cutting a long story short, she told me, I said, what motivated you to go into modelling anyway? And she goes, well, as a young person, I felt very insecure. I was bullied at school, and I was told I was ugly at school. Ugly in the eyes of the way people define physical presence in corporation, because we know that that definition is quite a loose definition. But all that said and done, she became a striver. Now we know, and I don't know the industry as well as some people know it, but we know, one thing I do know, you're making judgment continuously based on appearance, the outside. And we know by doing that, so when you get a job, how do you feel? When you get a commercial, when you get a film part, how do you feel, do you think? You feel pretty damn amazing for that instant gratification. But can you run away from the person that you see in the mirror? They tend to sort of keep looking back on you. And ultimately, in the end, it would be short-lived. Short-lived, until she got to a point where she was really struggling with a lot of things. And then she made a decision to get help. I started working with her because her belief, deep down inside, was that she was still, in her words, not mine, ugly and worthless. Now, if 100 people say to her, you look really well, what happens, do you think? It goes in one ear, out the other ear. If one person says, I don't like the colour of your shoes, she ruminates and stews over it. And that's truth be told. Something that doesn't maybe affect many people, but would affect her. So it shows how beliefs can have a structured reality. I worked with her over a period of time, and she wanted to do really, really well. And last I saw she was doing really, really well, exceptionally well. And at one point, she was actually hosting a show, which I won't go into because I'll protect the confidentiality, but would do well. And it shows how slight shifts in our perception of reality can make a big change. Okay? So we know that in the corporate environment, do the best people always get the job? No. Not always. Because I know from watching an interview, I don't know any of these two guys, by the way, let me clarify, but I know years ago when I watched an interview after England got beat by Germany in the World Cup qualifier, it was the last game at Wembley, the manager had so much experience. He was European Footballer of the Year twice and managed teams, as charismatic and enigmatic. And I remember listening on TV at the interview, he goes, I am not cut out for this level. So regardless of how good he is, what's he going to project? Precisely. I know when I watched another interview on TV of another guy in football management who was never a professional footballer, no immediate credentials. If you look at it from a playing point of view, we talk about coaching and mentoring. This guy was never a professional player of any significant level, had probably no more qualifications than the other guy. And he said in an interview when I watched on TV, I'm the special one. So I'm not suggesting you go and call yourself special ones, but it shows that if he believes that, how do other people feel about him? How does he feel about himself? The feeling. So the first one was Kevin Keegan. The second one was Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho is one of the most successful managers of this modern generation. What's the difference between the two? What? Potentially. Now, it's not easy, our structured reality, but you can see how that can be a big thing. Okay, so this process can really highlight things that you work on to go from here and go from there. Because many coaching protocols don't work really well. They work well, but they don't work well to a point because they're not going deeper. They're trying to put a plaster on a gaping wound. They're masking the cracks. And we see a lot of that. But the coach has been brought in to work that guy an imposter syndrome, so to speak. The next one we go is capabilities.
Do you break state between each level?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
What's the purpose of that?
Because we don't want to carry that mindset into the next stage. We want to be able to isolate.
Right.
So, for example, if I'm going from a framework so I've got the goal,
Yeah.
and I've linked it to my identity, then when I go to the beliefs, I don't want to sort of carry on those feelings and
Right.
thoughts. Does that make sense? So I break it,
Okay.
and I start from...
Right. In terms of what you would speak about to break the state.
well, I mean, I do it in subtle ways. I do it in subtle ways, but from the point of view of for practicality, when you practice in pairs, because then you find various ways to do state breaking. There's no exact science behind it, but just you can distract their attention by doing a story, by shifting their attention. You could, for practicality, say phone over backwards. Wash your phone over backwards, and that unscrambles your mind. So if I say, Lee, wash your phone over backwards, you're having to cognitively think about that.
Yeah.
So that's one way to give an example of how you can...
Right. And would you then actually say to the client, so to speak, we're going to break state now and then say something random like that? So
I generally wouldn't tell the client.
Why are you getting your telephone number backwards?
Well, I generally wouldn't do that with the client. I wouldn't say that to the
Well,
client.
that's what I was just trying to figure out. In terms
Unless you sort of talk to them prior to the session
Right.
about the exercise and gave them some information on the exercise, which we'll do in more detail after the demonstration. But you could explain. If you couldn't think of any other way to break state.
Yeah.
We know that the telephone in the background can break some of the state as well. So I'd utilise that to a point. So you could tell them in the beginning. And if that's one way you're going to use it, if you're trying to utilise a state breaking. But there are various ways you can break state. I mean, I could tickle Colin and break state. We'd probably think about completing. Yes, that would certainly break state. I'm broken your state. I could shift his attention.
Right. Okay.
I could many ways, but phone them backwards is the practicality. It's just practical in terms of demonstration. And you could say in the beginning, in between the exercise, I'll find a way to break that pattern. Because we want to relate to having the goal and going to that state of awareness. Does that sort of clarify? Which I'll demonstrate now shortly.
Yeah.
So Lee's got, so you've got the goal now again. So Colin's got the goal now again. So we step into the capability. So he's got the goal. We've broken his state between belief and value and capability and scrambled his mind. Now he's got the goal again. He feels it, he sees it, he hears it, which he's done really well there, straight in there. And now we go from the point of capabilities. So now you've got the goal, Colin. What capabilities did you learn along the way to execute the goal? What did you learn? What did you use?
How do you mean?
Okay, so capabilities to get to this goal. What capabilities did you utilise to get to the goal? What capabilities did you learn?
Well, I couldn't do it on my own, definitely.
Okay. Any tangible capabilities? Any specific capabilities that you would have learned to get there? To teach these people personal mastery.
Oh, sorry, around that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, well, yeah, quite a lot really.
Far away.
Physical education background, nutrition background.
Okay.
the study, I suppose,
Yeah.
essentially.
And anything that you had to learn to do, anything else you had to add?
In addition to all the studies, everything I've done in the last 10, 15 years myself, so personal experimentation, and then I suppose I get,
Others?
well, no, I get the benefit of all the feedback and the data and all the evidence from all the hundreds of people I've worked with.
Okay, fantastic. And anything else you had to learn specifically to any specific things you had to learn to get to where you are now as this personal mastery speaker?
Just generally as a coach, really, to improve personally all the time.
Anything specific you got to improve? Anything you'd improve specifically?
Not in terms of, well, yeah, generally as a coach you can always get better,
Of
but
course.
in terms of running a business, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and because you benefit of doing demonstration, we can talk about that
Yeah.
okay, as we go along. But can you see capabilities? Now the issue I've got with capabilities, which is a good thing to reflect on, is that, okay, you can teach someone all the capabilities you want in the world. You can teach them all that you want in the world. If they don't value it, or believe they can do it, will they do it, do you think?
No.
Precisely. And that's why it's really important to, because we've got a lot of strategies around capabilities, because we know that you can teach someone ICT, they don't value it or believe in it, will they do it? Okay? And the same goes for the next step, behaviour. Okay? There's plenty of behavioural strategies out there. The woman I talked about earlier, many behavioural strategies, plenty of books out there. You can read loads of books. There's out there. Okay? Whenever I travel to America, they've got self-help books, for goodness sake. Seriously, you know, there's plenty of them out there. But the only issue is, we don't generally learn didactically. We learn for experience. And where I think, in my opinion, and I travel around doing a lot of coaching and coach training over many, many countries, where I think a lot of people generally do, they become this all-powerful one. They believe in their own myth as a coach, as a therapist. I'm the all-powerful one. If you think you're going to influence someone who's got trillion cells, if not even more, in their brain by a few words, you can think again. You've got to find ways to create experiences, to facilitate these experiences along the way. Because we know behavioural strategies, we know what to do logically. Logically, we all know what to eat, what not to smoke, what not to do this, the other. Logically, you know what you know, but logic is one thing and emotion is another. The conscious mind is one thing to use and the unconscious mind is another altogether as well. So, from a behavioural point of view, yeah, you know, and there's plenty of behavioural strategies that we can utilise. That's for sure. Plenty of those out there, and that's the benefit of doing exercise. To start highlighting where, if you want to call them red flags, exist, that we can work on to move forward, get from A to B. So, once again, close your eyes, and I want to really, you've got the goal. What is Colin doing now differently behaviourally? Now you've got the goal. This personal mastery courses you're doing, and people and feeling, and what are you doing different behaviourally?
Thinking differently.
Okay. How are you thinking differently?
More self-beliefs, more self-confidence.
Okay. Okay. What self-confidence to you? What self-belief to you? How do you define that in your behaviour?
The certainty that I can do something.
To do what?
In this case, take the business to the level that I want to go
Okay.
to.
What are you certain you can do?
In terms of my business.
In terms of anything.
All right. Okay. I'm certain I can breathe.
Okay.
Certain I can eat and drink and move.
And how do you learn that?
Through experience.
Okay. And what else are you certain about?
I can drive a car, I can ride a bike.
And how are you certain you can take your business to another level?
How am I certain?
Yeah.
Based on that, I've moved it 7 years forward from having these same thoughts.
And what do you behaviourally to move it forward?
Surround myself by the right people.
Yeah.
Get out my own way sometimes.
Yeah.
Continue to learn, develop.
Okay. And behaviourally? Now you're the goal, what behaviours are you doing differently? Now you've got the goal that you weren't doing before. Now you're doing this personal mastery. What behaviour are you doing different that you weren't doing before?
I'm outsourcing things that I can't do or I don't want to do.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So if you come back to here in time, for the benefit of time, we're going to sort of proceed forward. Okay. Now we're going to step into the environment. Okay. So one more step before we sit back on the check. So go to environment. As you go into environment, perhaps you want to close your eyes. As you close your eyes and go
When
to
you say
environment,
environment, what does that mean specifically?
whatever the environment means to you for now.
Okay.
At this point, I don't like to,
Okay.
and I think it's really important as a coach not to enforce. We can direct and facilitate. So, what do you mean by that? What do you think I mean by that? So, the ultimate vision is to guide them to where they want to be, because we know words are labels. So, confidence to me is different to confidence to you, to you, to you. So, environment to me is one thing, the other. So, let's start with what environment is to you, and as we go to what environment is for you, we can guide you to environment. So, the world around you. Now you're this personal mastery coach, and you're coaching around the world, groups of people, and teaching them mastery.
Mm-hmm.
What's different, and what impact is that on your environment, the world around you?
The world around me will be changing regularly.
In what way?
I'll be in different places in the world,
Okay.
different countries, so different
Okay.
people.
Okay. And what impact have you had on the world around you?
Hopefully, on the people.
Hopefully.
Well, we'll definitely have given some of my clients some things to think about in a better way.
What sort of things?
Mastery, personal mastery, that they can control what they're doing.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. And what about you? You and should have gone into as much detail as you want to, because you can't have to volunteer. And I want you to think about your own environment, the small environment around you. So you've got the big picture environment, the world, and you've got your own ecological environment, and the impact on the people around you.
Okay.
Take some time to reflect that. And you can reflect on that, and because you've been confident to volunteer, you can sort of reflect on that. We can speak to that later. Okay. And as you do that, just come back to the here and now, time and place. Okay. If you just want to take a seat, back in the. What I'd like you to do is to reflect on what we've covered so far.
Okay.
So if you close your eyes again and just reflect on the stages that we covered, from the point of view of having the goal, we've gone to beyond the goal, identity, values, beliefs, capability, behaviour, environment. Is there any way you want to go back to and revisit and reevaluate?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. What I'd like to do now is take a moment now to reevaluate what we've covered, and trust in your unconscious mind, Colin. Trust in your unconscious mind, and we went on a journey. You've got the goal, your identity, your values, beliefs around having the goal, capabilities, behaviour, the environment. Bring back some learnings. Trust the unconscious mind to bring back learnings. What are some learnings you could take away from the exercise?
I think it was, well,
You think?
it was very powerful to project into the future
Yeah.
and look back.
How was it powerful?
I suppose I have done that before,
Yeah, okay.
and it's easy to get caught in where we are or where I was.
Is it easy?
It has been.
Okay. Is it easy now?
It's easy to go into the future and project back,
Yeah.
which is a lot more empowering.
Yeah.
Makes me a lot more resourceful.
Yeah. Tell me about your goal. Tell me about your goal again. Remind me what your big picture vision goal was.
So the goal is to establish my business in a way that's effective.
Okay. In what way will it be effective?
Be effective in the way that the people that I work with, I add value to them and their experience, so I can be a service to them.
How much value will you add to them?
Well, that will be determined by them, but essentially they will go away from an experience with me better than they started the experience.
Fantastic. And how will you feel having done that?
Grateful, fortunate, happy.
And what are some steps you can do to get to that place?
I need to continue doing what I'm already doing. Perhaps I just need to do it more.
Okay. How much more?
At least another 50%.
Okay. And how would you quantify that? From a process point of view?
From a process point of view, it would involve working with more people.
Okay. So if someone was to call you on the phone and ask you, having called you on the phone to hire your services, what would you say?
What would I say to them?
Yeah.
Um,
If they ask how could you help them take their business forward?
yeah, well, that's exactly it. I need to know what they needed, how they felt I could help them.
Yeah.
Well,
How do you feel you can help?
it's depending what he says or she says on the
Yeah,
front
okay.
of that conversation, but potentially I can disrupt what they're doing currently, because that's what I tend to do at the moment.
Yeah.
I disrupt and interrupt where people are in what I
Yeah.
choose to see as a positive way.
Yeah. And what do you do beyond that?
Help them to embed what we've talked about.
Yeah.
A big part of what I do is to apply what we do, not just talk about it.
Fantastic. And so what are some of the steps you can do to actualise this?
For me to actualise it,
Yeah. On the scale that you want to do.
I need to outsource some of my workload.
Okay. What are maybe a couple of steps that you could do? Some process goals you can have.
I need to identify exactly who I want to work with.
Okay.
I need to identify who could potentially come and work with or for me.
Okay. Fantastic. And from time point of view, we're going to surmise now, I'll sort of be kind of volunteer. Colin's a great coach. He's come a long way. He's a very modest coach. He's come a long way. He's come back from a tour in America and Malaysia, I believe, and he's been very successful across a broad level. And I think that this is my presupposition. In certain situations, we can go from here to here so fast that it's almost like we've got this, we've left certain parts of ourselves behind, where we can go really, really fast. And you can come out of the blocks and shoot out of the box really, really fast, which is what we have done, and what you have done certainly. And so it's like this vacuum you've created for yourself, and so on and so forth. And they're my words, not yours, ultimately. So you've got this now, you can watch it through. We're going to sort of talk off air now and highlight a few things and go from there, because you can kind of volunteer.